I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of our shooting program, and welcome to today's show. We're so glad to have people watching all over the United States and several other countries, and we do appreciate your mail, we do appreciate your comments very much, and we're so glad to have you. We have a great show for you today, and you know, friends, in the past you've heard me talk about the natural pointing abilities of the 1911, of John Browning's original design of hold it up and it's in the right place along with your finger. Well, let's see if we can make a practical application or a demonstration of just how good that feature is. Today we're going to use eye protection of a little different sort. In fact, I'm going to use a blindfold. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to sight my 1911 at the target, and I'm not going to move. I'm going to put my blindfold on. This is no joke. No, I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to put my blindfold on and shoot that water bottle blindfolded. So let's see how it goes. All right, I'm not going to move from this spot to put my blindfold on. Let's see what it looks like. Well, friends, we're going to look at a gun that I think possibly is overlooked sometimes in today's market and among today's shooters. This is a Ruger Blackhawk in .357 Magnum. Now you might say, well, why would I want a single action .357 Magnum? Well, there may be several reasons. In fact, a lot of these guns are out there. For instance, years ago when I bought my first handgun, I was in my early 20s, I guess, and I didn't know that much about guns. I didn't know just all the finer points of revolvers or semi-automatics either, for that matter, but I did know how much money I had in my pocket, and I wanted a larger caliber handgun. So my first gun that I bought with my own money was a Ruger Blackhawk. Mine happened to be in .45 Colt. But looking back, I probably should have gotten a .357 Magnum for the simple reason I could have done more shooting more economically than I could have with the .45 Colt factory ammunition at that time. I didn't reload back then when I first started out trying to learn to shoot a handgun. Well, these are really among the most rugged handguns that money can buy. They're very simple in how they work, and there are some differences you can see in comparison to our Super Blackhawk. It's just not quite as large a package. This .357, the standard Blackhawk, this one has a 6.5-inch barrel, whereas our .44 Magnum here has a 7.5-inch barrel. But you can see there are some differences. One, it has a different grip frame. The trigger guard is different. The Super Blackhawk has a non-fluted cylinder. It is smooth, whereas for weight, I suppose, as much as anything else, the regular Blackhawk has a fluted cylinder. The hammers are different. The Blackhawk has a narrower hammer, whereas the Super Blackhawk has a wider, I suppose, target type hammer. Well, the good news is, like I said, that these guns are out there and they're more economical, say, than a comparable double action revolver, mainly because they just don't have as many working parts. Now, the advantages of a single action are simplicity, durability, a very, very rugged mechanism. The internal parts are a little bigger than on some of the double action guns. The hand that turns the cylinder in place is a bigger affair there. It's just the parts are a little more massive, and plus the cylinder itself turns on a central base pin, a central cylinder pin there. You have a lot of rigidity between the frame and the cylinder there, because the rod goes through the frame all the way through the cylinder, locks up in the back, whereas on a double action revolver, the typical one like this Smith & Wesson, the cylinder pin here, the ejector rod and all, is locked in place by a piece here in the front of well on the barrel here in front of the ejector rod, and on the back by a spring-loaded piece here, which is still a strong system. And let me tell you what, this Smith & Wesson 686 is really about as good as handguns get. I'm certainly not down here today to talk about the weaknesses of a double-action revolver, because there just about aren't any. They're very fine mechanisms. But in comparison, it's a .357 Magnum, and so is our Ruger Blackhawk, and roughly they're the same size gun, the double action here and the single action Ruger. One thing about strength you can see, and today I'm not sure how important this is, but I know in years past, before the modern steels, before some of the metallurgical advancements came along that we have now, it was important. Look at the amount of metal around the hole in that cylinder. That is really a tremendous amount of metal, which would go a long way toward containing very, very high pressures. Now, .357 Magnum cartridges at top-end loads actually run at about 35,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. Now, friends, that's a lot of pressure, and as we've demonstrated before, you darn sure don't want to get your finger or your hand around the gap between the cylinder and the barrel, because that would act just like a knife there. 35,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, that's a lot. So in times past, certainly the amount of metal in the cylinder to contain the fast burning rate when the powder goes off. Incidentally, the powder does not explode, it burns very rapidly, causing gases that at extremely high pressure that will push that bullet out real fast. A gun might be looked at such as a dragster. It goes from zero to real fast, real quick. So that's one way of looking at it there, I suppose. But this is the old gun that I had borrowed from Britton's a week or so ago, and they've been nice enough to let me keep it for a short time here for our testing. And it looked really bad. It was pretty rusty. A lot of finish was missing on the barrel, a lot of the finish on the frame here. That's another difference. The Super Blackhawk has a steel frame, whereas the regular standard Blackhawk has an aluminum frame. But just a difference in weight is all I can see. Heck, I've never heard of aluminum frame breaking or being worn out. But anyway, that's just the grip frame now, not the frame around the cylinder, just the grip frame and trigger guard. Anyway, this old gun was pretty much of an ugly duckling. The barrel was terribly leaded up, and so I brought it home out here to work with it. It's sort of a project gun, just to see what could be done with it. Well, let me tell you what, once I cleaned it and got the action slicked up there a little bit, it shoots as well as a brand new one. It is extremely accurate. Velocities are just excellent. We tested it against our brand new Smith & Wesson here, and the velocities are just right in there with the Smith & Wesson. It's just excellent. It has a lower, and we'll shoot it one time here. We have some full charge loads this afternoon. Due to the nature of how these things work, yeah, I put my hearing protection in good, because yes, they are loud. Well, watch it in my hand here under recoil. See, it slides forward, it slides up in the hand, and actually you don't get the sense of felt recoil that you would in, say, a double action gun. Now, there are several different methods of shooting these guns, and of course there's another advantage right there. A helpful tip, when you go to the range and you need something to put your empties in, just a milk jug or a water jug or whatever else, just cut the top out of it, leave the handle on it, and put your empties right there. It'll save you a lot of trouble. Anyway, there are several methods of shooting these guns. Of course, you can thumb cock it like so with the thumb, and under recoil, it'll rise up. The hammer will actually sort of come back to your thumb, so it's pretty quick that way. Or slip shooting like so. Well, friends, we have some information I think you'll want to write down. We have a new phone system here for the program. For our health club number, you can call us at 1-800-648-0129. Again, 1-800-648-0129, and that is code 33. Now, there's something else that we're offering through our health club, and this is, I think, the best book on drug use, on what's happening in our society that I've ever seen. Kat, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it does have the terminologies.
Okay, well, this book, show them that, please, ma'am, if you would. This book's entitled "Drugs Are Taking Our Kids," and says our kids aren't just taking drugs, drugs are taking our kids. And this is, I think, the best book I have seen on this. This is by Tracy Brown, PhD, and also Mimi Lowry, who is an LPN. She was a nurse. And I tell you what, this is just a terrific thing that we're offering through our health club. So you can call the health club 800 number. Any correspondence on the health club, you can call us 1-800-648-0129. That's code 33. Now, we also have a new shooting show phone number. You may want to write this down. Area 318-682-4218. Again, 318-682-4218. If you want to get a message to our shooting show office. Now then, for advertisement and general all-around use, you can talk to Bobby, our advertising director, at 1-800-728-8486. That's 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. Again, 1-800-728-8486 for anything regarding advertising or other things in that area. So we really do recommend this. Is an excellent book. Drugs are taking our kids. And if you really want to know what's really happening, huh, Catherine?
That's right.
And she's read the book, and certainly it is just excellent. So a little information we thought we'd give you. You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Friends, you see that slip shooting. One, I'm not holding the trigger down here. I'm not holding it down like so. I'm releasing the trigger. You got to have a little bit of coordination. It takes a little bit of work to shoot these single actions rapidly if you're going to do anything other than thumb cock it there, and certainly it takes a little bit of dexterity, which can be worked at. The slip shooting, I'm cocking the hammer with my offhand thumb and then pulling the trigger with my trigger finger. So I'm doing it with definite motions of the thumb and the finger here. Never, ever, never, if you have a single action, unless you are a pro and you have some special parts installed, never fan one of these guns like so, because yes, they will break. Even the Rugers, and I speak from experience because we ran an experiment just seeing how these guns could be shot some time ago, and yes, I broke a Ruger Super Blackhawk by fanning it. Got it where it wouldn't function. So any mechanical device, and these Rugers are about as strong and trouble-free as any firearm I've ever even heard of. But yes, indeed, we broke one by fanning it. The fast draw artists like Bob Munden and some of these other folks have specially designed and made parts that go in these guns just for that purpose, so they can stand. When your hand comes down, when you slap one of these, it's a tremendous amount of pressure here from your hand and your arm and your upper body on some little bitty metal parts there. So we just don't recommend it at all. If you, it'll be dangerous for some people to try that, but it will also destroy a fine firearm. And the truth is, most of us, it really takes someone who is a pro, someone who works with these things day in, day out, to be able to hit anything fanning it anyway. Ed McGivern could years ago. Some experiments have been run. All of this stuff that we see in the Western programs, some of the old Western movies where they'll fan their guns, bang, 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 it's just not, I don't believe that at all. It's just not true, because remember, the old Colts and the old guns in the old West weren't made of nearly as good of materials as these modern guns are, and yes, they would break. Well, let's try something. Let's try something just for fun since we're here. A lot of the authorities say, well, we really don't want to consider a single action for self-defense. Well, it's odd that a number of your finest handguns going for hunting are single action revolvers, such as the Freedom Arms, the 454 Casull, certainly the Black Hawk series, and there are some other very fine single actions out there, a few others. And there's got to be a reason for it. True, it's no contest when it comes to loading and unloading. Loading and unloading is one at a time, in and out for that matter. But the advantage is on this single loading, if you have a shell that gets stuck in one of the chambers here in the cylinder, heck, if you don't have time to get out in the field, you can leave it in there and it won't tie up your gun. You can have other, you can clear out the other holes in the cylinder, and you can go on with your gun, go on shooting your gun. And two, you have a greater amount of leverage on that one cartridge case when you push it out. I'll remind you, this is a new model Black Hawk. It has the transfer bar safety mechanism. And these guns will have on the side, it says Ruger 357 Magnum caliber new model Black Hawk. This means it was made after 1973, and the pre-1973 guns do not have transfer bar safety mechanisms. The older model guns, just like the Colt single action, most of the Colt clones, should only be carried with 5 rounds in the cylinder and the hammer down over an empty hole in that cylinder. Very, very important, because the old style guns, it just had a little safety notch there in the hammer, and that was not for carrying. That was for in case you started to cock the hammer and it happened to slip out from under your thumb, the gun hopefully would not go off. It was just a notch to get that firing pin off that primer. So in the old style guns, they're 5 shooters. They're not 6 shooters, they're 5 shooters, because they should always be carried with an empty chamber underneath that hammer. On the models after 1973, the new model Black Hawks, they're safe to be carried with all 6 holes in that cylinder charged. So that's okay, and that's really important. If you have an old model Ruger made before 1973, Ruger will convert your gun at no charge. You can send it to them or call them for instructions, but they'll do that, even send your original parts back to you for collector value, and they'll convert it where the gun will have that transfer bar or that type of safety where it could be carried with 6 rounds in the cylinder. You know, we have to go over this because so many people now grow up in the cities. They don't grow up shooting as a child. They didn't have anyone to instruct them like a lot of us out here in the country did. So these are basics that need to be gone over. There are some of these old guns that are inherited as heirlooms, and they're passed down to people that really don't understand how they work. So we have to go over that from time to time, because we want to prevent as many accidents as is possible. You know, nothing, no mechanism, no device is foolproof. None are accident proof. So what we want to be is safe as possible when we're handling these firearms. Well, let's do something here. We have our close paper target here, and we're talking about speed of shooting, and I really think that's what most people, honestly, 6 rounds of Corbin 357 Magnum ammunition, I tell you, it's going to have to be a huge threat that won't deal with. A lot of people are going to use these guns for self-defense, and this makes a lot of people now with the semi-automatics and even with the double-action revolvers, they want to point and spray, bang, 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 bang. Well, what you do is, one, you probably won't hit your intended target. You may injure something or destroy something behind, or that you certainly don't want to injure or destroy. And when you get through just banging away and you exhaust your ammunition supply, whether it's 15 in a semi-automatic or 6 or 7 in a double-action revolver, your problem may still be there. So accuracy cannot be overstated. Accuracy is extremely important. You know, we hear stories every day of police officers now with semi-automatics, and they'll get in a confrontation, they'll just blast away, and out of 15 or 30 or 40 rounds, they may hit their assailant one time, maybe 2 times, and those may not be telling hits. Well, one thing that the single action forces you to do, if you use one and become familiar with it, it forces you to have accuracy, because these 6 rounds are the only quick ones you're going to get for a while. And that's why the people in the Old West, the old lawmen and all, they carried not one, but sometimes two, even three different handguns, because they knew they weren't going to be able to reload rapidly. So that's why they carried a backup gun. A backup gun is still a good idea today. It's essential, because I don't care how good this 1911 by Gunsight, it's as good as semi-automatics get, friends, but it can still malfunction. And you're not going to have time, if you're in a life and death confrontation, to worry about, well, what's wrong with my gun. You're going to need to go for your backup gun and not worry about it and go on and take care of the problem. That's the thing about a handgun. When you need a handgun, you need it real bad right then, whether you've got a snake crawling across here, a rattlesnake, or you've got a mad dog, or you've got some dope crazed person that's trying to hurt you or someone in your family. You need it real bad right then. You don't need to worry about, is it going to work or whatever else. And if it does malfunction, you need to be able to get another one quickly and do something with it. Well, let's go ahead and load our Black Hawk here. We'll put 5 rounds, and we're shooting full charge ammunition this afternoon. And we'll put 5 rounds in the gun, because that's all we're going to shoot for now. And we have our 686 357. And let's just run a little test here in comparing the speeds that we can get off 5 rounds here. We have our Pro Timer from Competition Electronics, which has been a champ of a device. This little thing here has really performed well. And we've got our close range target. And we would expect, of course, the double action revolver to have some advantage up close and personal as far as speed of shooting. But let's just see up at point blank just how much advantage it has for 5 shots. Let's try it. Shoot our double action first. Turn our timer on. Punch it, get in place. Okay, 1.21 seconds counting my reaction time. And our target's leaning a little bit this afternoon. Get it back in place here a little better. Now then, and we have a group like so, which is not too bad actually. Not a bad time. We started ready position, and let's go on and tape our target. Now then, let's run the same drill with our single action revolver. We're going to start with it cocked because we're in the ready position. Now 5 shots, including my reaction time, which let's see how long it took my first shot. My first shot came at 27/100ths of a second. So we have a total of 1.21 seconds, as we said earlier. Let's try the same drill, and I'm going to try slip shooting with the single action for a little more speed. Get in position here. Okay, 209, and I had to make the transition from my first shot. Let's see, look at the timer and see what it said. My first shot was at 0.3 of a second. I was a little bit slower, and for me to get my thumb up there on the second one was 1.01 seconds, so it took me a little while. I had a little stumble there on getting my second shot there, but let's see what the others took. Okay, now then, the next shot took me 0.38 of a second between shots. The next one was 0.34 and 0.36. So we're talking about, from about 0.2 of a second. It's taking me about 50% longer per close range shot, but my group is about the same, because after I got going, I began to speed up. Friends, let's do something different now. Let's move back a little bit. We're here at about 10 yards or so, and let's compare the times with our single action to our double action revolver. On multiple targets where only hits count. If I miss, I'm going to shoot again and be sure I can hit what I'm aiming at. Only hits count. It's like the real world. Only hits count. Okay, we've got our timer here. Let's see what it looks like from the low ready position. Okay, real time of 2.37 seconds. All right, friends, we'll go ahead and shoot these same steel targets. And you'll notice they're not in the same level. These two here are about the same level. This one's another one. So we've got some reality. We're just not shooting across the range here. We're actually having to consciously find that front sight and shoot. All right, the time for the double action 357 was 2.37 seconds in the low ready position. All right, let's try the same drill with our single action. Okay, 2.62 seconds, and I wasn't slip shooting, I was cocking with my thumb. So, friends, let's try that same drill one more time, and be slip shooting the revolver, see if I can pick up any speed. Punch my timer. Well, 2.53 seconds, so yeah, I did pick up a little bit of time, 2.53, so I'm only about 0.2 of a second away from my time with the double action revolver. Well, a little quicker, 2.19 seconds, that's me this afternoon with the semi-automatic, but again, not shooting, no, that wasn't core bond, that was ball ammunition, which was a standard velocity. Not nearly as much power, and just a little bit quicker than the double action revolver. Well, friends, the point of all this is to say that one, the Black Hawks and other fine single actions for that matter are indeed very useful guns, very nice guns to own and enjoy shooting. And honestly, given time, if you spend some time out here with one of these guns and realize being a revolver, they'll function with all kinds of loads, from snake shot to the lower velocity lead loads, very, very inexpensive to reload. That's one advantage to the 357, because it'll shoot 38 specials, very low recoil loads. You can reload for the 38 and 357 with lead bullets, cast bullets, very, very inexpensively, and really learn to shoot one of these extremely well. A tremendous amount of versatility, and yes, they can go pretty fast if you need them to. And if we said it once, I've said it a dozen times, accuracy is of supreme importance in any sort of serious shooting that you do. You can't just, we can never have enough ammunition or the time to spray and pray that it hits something. So we have a couple of target loads in here. See what it looks like out here. You have the option of the lighter target type loads. Just out here having fun. And then you have the option of real power if you need it. The Black Hawk 357.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it. You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE, and those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. Now, friends, what do Jim Clark Sr., K. Clark Michalik, Jerry Michalik, and Jim Clark Jr. have in common? You can find them all at Clark Custom Guns in Princeton, Louisiana, one of the finest custom gun shops in the entire country. They offer all sorts of custom packages on 1911s and other semi-automatics, from race guns to custom carry guns. They also offer a number of different custom packages for the Ruger 1022, and also have some very economically priced new 1022s in stock. Clark Custom Guns also has a good stock of Ruger Security 6s in blue and stainless at good prices. Clark Custom Guns offers some of the best revolver packages available anywhere, including action jobs on your Smith & Wesson or some other fine revolvers. In addition to custom work, they also have a completely stocked gun shop, anything from bullets to powder to accessories that you might want, and offer some shooting classes. You need to call for availability. Friends, it's certainly good for the shooting show, but good for yourselves when you call and get a Clark Custom Guns catalog. They have all sorts of things listed about their products and services and excellent prices. Give them a call. Area 318-949-9884. Again, 318-949-9884. Clark Custom Guns, the complete custom gun shop. Give them a call today. Tell them you saw it on the shooting show. Friends, we hope you're enjoying our program. We do want to extend our appreciation, certainly, from myself and my colleague here, Leroy Scott. You'll notice we have a new backdrop on the program today here, and this comes from a friend of ours. I believe this is Dave Boudet. I hope I said that right, Dave, from Dearborn, Michigan. He sent this flag, and this is entitled "Just Say No to the United Nations," and we thought that was pretty good. And if any of you would like to have a "Just Say No to the United Nations" flag there, you can contact C.B. Clark Services at area 313-383-6744 and get your "Just Say No to the UN" flag. I felt like that's sort of fitting. Sir, how you doing?
Well, I guess I'm okay. Recovering from Easter.
Well, we hope everyone did have a nice and happy Easter because this is just a day after when we're taping this program. So, sir, you have some correspondence here I believe you want to mention.
Yeah, Bob Jones from Salisbury, Maryland has written us. He's concerned about the liberal media. He thinks that it's going to be almost impossible to win in November unless something is done to counter the liberal media. Well, we are countering the liberal media. That's what we're here for. We are the counter to the liberal media. Part of it, the NRA program, which is on talk radio, is part of that. Rush Limbaugh is part of it. G. Gordon Liddy is part of it.
Ken Hamlin, certainly.
Oh, yeah, Ken Hamlin.
The Black Avenger.
The Black Avenger. He is great. He is really great. And I think those groups need to be given credit for being the counter to the liberal media. Talk radio has done more to educate the public on these subjects than almost anything else that I can think of. Talk radio, talk television, and of course the program that Pat Buchanan was on.
Crossfire, of course.
Crossfire was is part of it, because although you've got a wide-eyed liberal on Crossfire, you've also got some conservatives, it makes sense most of the time.
Mhm.
Understand, I'm not of the opinion that conservatives make sense all the time.
Well, that's true. But, you know, I heard something today. The reason that this accused Unabomber, the guy that was off in the woods there in Montana, you notice that the liberal media, and I heard Rush Limbaugh say this earlier today, the reason that the liberal media has not jumped all over this trying to equate him with the militia groups and the groups that were accused, or the individuals that were accused in Oklahoma City, because the old Unabomber is sort of like the ultimate leftist. You know, here's someone that doesn't believe in capitalism, does not believe in personal freedom, apparently, does not believe in mechanized society.
Oh, we don't know if this is the right man.
We don't even know if it's the right man. But the liberals hadn't jumped on this.
But now, Johnny, how big a cabin did he have?
Tiny. Something like 12 by
12 by 14?
Something like that.
12 by 16. Anyhow, it was less than 300 square feet. And it took the FBI how long to search that cabin? 3 days? 4 days?
Well,
now, it begins to wonder, I begin to wonder, are they searching the cabin or are they putting things in it?
well, that's a good question. That's something that is very difficult to surmise about. But I did think that was interesting what Rush said about the liberal media has not jumped on. You know, nothing's been said about weapons at all, because if this guy is in fact he's graduated from Harvard, I believe. He said that they commented just how he's the ultimate leftist. So
Do you remember the quip I heard once about the shortest route to Washington?
how's that?
Go to Harvard and turn left.
Pretty good.
No, Bob, I think that we are really making a difference. I don't know that this program is enough to make any difference, or make the difference, but it's making some difference, and we hope we are. I don't think we're making much difference in Louisiana. We've got 5 out of 7 Republican congressmen.
And they're doing pretty well already.
They're doing pretty good, but they all voted for that terrorism bill as it finally got out of the House, and I think they were wrong on it. I'm ashamed of them for that. If I had time, I'd write them and fuss about it.
You know, friends, it's rare in any field of manufacture that one particular company has a clear-cut advantage over the others. Well, in this case, it's Corbin Ammunition, Corbin Bullet Company, because they make the best handgun, long gun, and even some specialty caliber ammunition that's been real hard to get in the past. If you really want your handgun or rifle to perform at their absolute best, you need to find some Corbin ammunition. For information on where you can get Corbin, information on their product line, call them. Corbin Bullet Company, 1-800-626-7266. Again, give them a call. It's a free call, 1-800-626-7266. Trust me on this one. Corbin is the best there is.
Well, I was talking about what we were doing about the liberal media and how we're part of the answer to that. There are things you can do about it too. The public is awakening to the fact that the media is liberal. Our problem is we've got an awful lot of wishy-washy voters in this country, and maybe that's why we send wishy-washy congressmen to Congress. But how the voters can one week be in favor of one person and next week be in favor of somebody else, with people being undecided. I don't see how anybody can be undecided in a political contest. I don't get ideal candidates. I don't think Dole is an ideal candidate.
Well,
he's sure a lot better than Clinton.
Well, he's one thing you say about Bob Dole. Hillary won't be part of the ticket if Bob Dole does go in. I mean, it's that much, you know.
Well, from Don M. Singer, I'm not pronouncing that
Ensminger.
right.
Don Ensminger, I believe.
In Dover, Pennsylvania. Thank you for sending us a copy of the fact sheet on the Pennsylvania Uniform Firearms Act of 1995. It looks like that has been good legislation. I want to give a boost again to the NRA, to Gun Owners of America, particularly to gun owners of America. We've had a lot of our viewers that have joined GOA and probably sent them a little money on their political campaign fund. GOA does assist people who are on our side, and it doesn't make a difference to them whether they're Democrat or Republican. I haven't had a chance to read this last issue, April 10th issue of Gun Week. It's kind of ramrodded, backed by the Second Amendment Foundation. But there's some interesting articles in it, at least from the little heads that I see, and I haven't had time to read it. Kentucky passes right to carry. Ex-FBI chiefs hit terrorism bill. That's interesting that on NBC's David Brinkley, two former directors of the FBI expressed serious reservations about several provisions of the anti-terrorism bill. Well, I have some reservations about them too, and GOA has big reservations about them. House votes to repeal U.S. ban on semi-autos. Well, we've all heard that. U.S. courts split on Sheriff's Brady lawsuits. Yes, they are. Some are for us and some are against us. The Fifth Circuit's recently ruled for us. Fifth Circuit's particularly interesting to me because this is where we live. Then they have latest products promise shooters some new options. Guns for Cons bill modified in Washington. I don't know what that means.
Don't know.
Haven't had time to read it. Latest Kleck study confirms the value of guns.
Professor Kleck.
That's Dr. Kleck. He's a good man. He's the one that showed by his study that guns were used 2.5 million times a year to prevent crime. And I'll eventually get around to reading that, but I don't know when. This week's facts for the NRA points out that the Clinton administration is going to outrageous bounds to try to accomplish in foreign affairs what they haven't been able to accomplish in domestic affairs on gun bans. President Clinton threatened to veto the Foreign Relations Revitalization Act of 1995. Why? Because the legislation contained a prohibition against interference in the Second Amendment rights of Americans by the Arms Control and Disarmament Agency. Bad outfit to start with. I suggest that those of you who want to get on the NRA fax list, and you should want to be it if you've got a fax machine, is an 800 number, toll-free number, 392-8683. That's NRA. I don't have the GOA fax number right now with me. I do these things by leaving my office and picking up or grabbing a stack of material, and sometimes I have all the things I want and sometimes I don't. I want to thank our friend Marv Schwanbeck again. Hope you're watching it, Marv. I had commented a couple of weeks ago about the executive order on Yellowstone Park, and we got some mail, people wanting to know what that executive order was and getting copies of it if they could. It's Executive Order 12968. That's 12968. Marv Schwanbeck is the one that has looked it up and sent it to me. I think he's probably the one that told me about it in the first place. He seems to keep up with that, and he's on the internet. 12968, Executive Order. International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Thank you, Marv. I appreciate that. I really appreciate your listening and keeping us straight on some of the things that that I've misplaced and can't keep track of.
Well, I like what he says there on the title on that page. Are we the United States or the United Nations? Well, let me tell you what, friends, we are not the United Nations, as much as these people would like to have us be. Don't you agree, Judge?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Clinton's problem, a lot of these people's problem is they haven't taken basic training. They haven't gone through Marine Corps indoctrination. Now, I haven't gone through that either, but I didn't need to. I was already that way. CBS Sunday morning television show reported that 8 million people have lost their jobs since the 80s and 3 million more since NAFTA went into effect. Corporate CEO salaries have zoomed up 1,000%. That's 10 times, while all the time corporations were gutting American jobs. And now that's what Buchanan was fussing about, is what he is fussing about. And the liberal media did a job on him, a real job.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know what these people think they're going to do, because the liberal media ain't going to be liberal when they're not going to exist at all. If the UN takes over, that's the first thing is lost, is freedom to speak, freedom of opinion, freedom of the press. It may not be the first thing is lost. First thing is lost, the right to keep and bear arms. After that, all the other things fall because you can't defend them. Beijing Conference, the United Nations Commission for Global Governance. Now that really bothers me. United Nations Commission for Global Governance. Let me ask you a question. We talk about one man, one vote. Let's say that you get a one man, one vote world government. Who's in the minority? We are.
We are. Oh,
we are
absolutely.
in the minority. If you think you've seen confiscatory taxation, you haven't seen anything yet. The UN will grab everything in the United States of America because we are the producing country in the world. They do the same thing to Japan, too.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. Friends, you can see our lovely and talented assistant here holding AR-15. In fact, the tri-tote she's wearing is holding the AR-15. Kat, show us how it works. And, of course, the gun is easily put into action.
Get your hands off that gun, bow, or fishing rod. Holding onto your equipment while you're going through the woods or climbing a hill is fatiguing and possibly dangerous. The versatile tri-tote all-season carrier is easy to use. You never have to drill a hole in your fine gun stock. And the tri-tote can be set up for your specific needs in a jiffy. Just follow the illustrated instructions and free demo video enclosed. There you are, hands-free, yet ready to shoot in an instant. Hunting and fishing have never been more enjoyable. With tri-tote, your equipment is secure and your hands are free to support yourself or carry other gear. How did you ever get along without tri-tote? Make this year's hunting and fishing the best ever. To order your tri-tote at this special TV price, call toll-free 1-800-231-1443. That's 1-800-231-1443.
You know, Judge, let me interrupt here for a second. Yesterday, we're talking about what the United Nations would do to us as a people and how the media is. I was listening to a radio broadcast yesterday, one of the talk shows, and it had someone on there saying he was giving 50 ways to get rid of guns, and he and the commentator were both very liberal. This individual had written a book, although he admitted he had not done research to substantiate some of the suppositions he had made. And this is what it made me so angry. We're talking about guns and children. You know something, and we are very conscious about families and people having guns in their homes. Don't we teach children not to take coat hangers and go stick them into electric sockets? Don't we teach them not to do that? Aren't children teachable enough not to drink chlorine bleach at home? Isn't that a good idea? You know, I mean, children don't do this normally. Why can't children be taught
to safely handle firearms or not to touch firearms when no one's around. Why can't they be taught that, Judge? Have we come to the point where we can't teach children anything anymore? You know, this really made me angry. Our friend Roy Brunn said a while back, talk about lead in paint. Why can't we teach kids not to eat paint? You know?
Well,
talk about the media.
That you can't make life safe unless they lock you in a cell and push the food through the door. There's no such thing as a safe life. We can do the best we can, but safety at the cost of freedom is a bad trade. For example, House Resolution 119 is a joint bill of the Senate and the House to recognize and adopt the agenda of the Beijing Conference for World Government. That's horrible.
See, friends, this is here. See this right here? This is here, and it's got to be stopped. This United Nations thing has gotten. We're talking about giving up our sovereignty, our rights as Americans to go along with the rest of the world. Why in the world do we want to go along with the rest of the world? You know, and give up our own freedoms in this country who's done more in Western civilization than any nation in history. Why should we give this up? It just makes me so angry. I can't, you know.
Well, now the labor unions, and understand, I support labor unions. I think labor unions are valuable and important. They have not represented their members as well as they should have on this closing down plants and shipping jobs off overseas. Mm-hmm. But I think labor unions are important. They spent $20 million last year airing negative ads trying to frighten elderly voters about the Republican agenda. This year, they've publicly promised to buy control of the House of Representatives by spending $35 million to defeat Republicans in 70 districts. That's $500,000 per district. Do you realize what the average representative race costs?
A lot, I know.
$409,000. So and they want to spend $500,000 in each district
to defeat that person.
And faced with some legislation on campaign finance reform, the Democrats walked out of the committee. They just picked up and left. Now, I don't care whether they spend all that money, because in the first place, about 40% of the union members voted Republican last year, or in 1994. And I'm not afraid of the American worker. The American worker has gotten to be kind of a mid-grade capitalist. The average American worker has. You take a look at the automobile plants. I'm reminded of the comment that the president of the United Coal Mine, John L. Lewis. John L. Lewis made a remark some years ago when the pilots were striking on the airlines, and he looked at it and he said, it looks like one group of capitalists against another group of capitalists. You know, airline pilots get paid pretty well. Anyhow, your agenda is to get out and vote. We have both the House and the Senate in Louisiana have passed a concealed firearms bill. Some idiot senator tacked on a provision in the Senate bill to require guns, when they're being carried concealed, to have a trigger lock on them. Now, isn't that brilliant?
Well, friends, that goes back to what we said last week. Our side has got to be down there to explain to these people how guns work, because a lot of these panel committee members don't have a clue which end the bullet comes out of. So our voices have to be heard as gun owners. You've got to testify at these committee meetings. We have to take part, because trust us on this one. If we don't take part, our opposition will be there to take part themselves.
You know, I've been preaching this for so long that I ought to be tired of it. But I started this back in about 75, when Reagan was trying to get when we were trying to nominate Reagan for the presidency, and I was telling the NRA at a regional meeting to quit reacting and to start acting. Get our people in office, and then you don't have to worry about how they vote. But we don't have enough of them in office yet, and this time, in 1996, we need to put some more of them in office. And I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. It just happens that if you look at the median of each party, the Republicans are better equipped or are more favorable toward our firearms than the Democrats are. But we've got some darn fine Democrats, and we don't want to lose them. So it's up to you to get very active in your district. Go to political meetings. Go to the party caucuses. Speak. Get yourself heard, and if possible, get yourself elected as delegates. Do something. That's what it takes, doing something.
Now, friends, here we are at my little standing bench rest here. It's successful for me. And, you know, when we get these guns to test, we like to shoot them off a sandbag rest. Now, there are a number of ways of doing this, but something I read here a while back, I think it was Mike Venturino, a suggestion that he had, and we tried it, and it was real good. The essential thing that you want to do when shooting off a sandbag rest of any kind, essentially, you want the gun to repeatedly be in the same position. And a good idea, you can rest the butt of the gun on the sandbag here, and you want to apply the same pressure, the same shooting conditions to the gun every time you shoot it. Because if you don't, you know, the bullet actually starts down the barrel and the gun is in recoil. Actually, the gun is already recoiling before that bullet comes out. So when you actually pull the trigger, the gun starts its way up because of the force of the pressure in the cylinder there. It already starts back, and what you want here to see how the gun's going to shoot is consistency. Very, very important. Now, friends, here's one suggestion. Take the gun, put it on the rest like so, and cock it. And one suggestion, like I said, I picked up, I think it was Mike Venturino, said put some pressure with the off hand on the wrist of the gun like so, again, in an attempt to put some pressure on the butt going into the sandbag here and to steady your aim there, see? And on each shot, go ahead and readjust and do your sight alignment, and that's not a bad idea, actually. And take plenty of time and get it set again just where it's supposed to be. Take your time when shooting for accuracy. That's not a bad system here. I guess there are all sorts of ways to do this, but and gently squeeze, of course, as lightly or as consistently as can while keeping a consistent pressure on the gun. And this is one way to see just in fact how good your gun will shoot.